Okay, again, here's the book, Prevent and Reverse Diabetes by me, Pete Rogers, and we're on chapter 2 now, and this chapter is what prevents type 2 diabetes. So basically, for any disease, if you want to be cured of the disease, you have to avoid the thing that causes it. And basically, diabetes is primarily a disease of excessive dietary fat. There's other things that cause diabetes. I just went through that in the previous lecture. The things that cause insulin resistance and the things in addition to high dietary fat. High dietary sodium, lack of plants, potassium, magnesium, plant nitrates. Okay, things like PFAS, the nonstick cookware. Things like mitochondrial inhibitors, SERCA inhibitors, you know. We talked about how a lot of drugs are mitochondrial inhibitors like statins, and they increase your risk of diabetes. Wonderful. Okay, so avoid all those things from the previous chapter. Eat a low sodium diet. We talked about how high sodium diets increase the risk of insulin resistance. Eat a low fat diet, of course, and avoid all types of fat. Don't worry, it's impossible to be too low in fat. I got previous lectures talking about all that. Eat a diet that is plant-based, 100% vegan, and you want it to be 100% organic, so you avoid the things they spray in it, like atrazine on the corn and glyphosate on the soy. That also can increase your risk of diabetes. I only eat single ingredient foods, whole foods, something as close to nature as possible. If there's a second ingredient, they can put other things into it and not tell you, like MSG, MFG, and all that. Starch-based, but fruits are good. And the secret of fruits is kind of that basically it's the fat that causes insulin resistance. So if you just eat the fruits, your glucose only goes up a little bit. It's not a big deal. You're fine. Your insulin sensitivity will be really good. If you eat fat first and then you eat the fruits, your blood glucose will stay up a prolonged amount of time. Okay, but sugars are not what causes insulin resistance. Okay, it's the fats primarily amongst dietary chemicals, and the proteins have a little bit of an effect, especially animal protein, because they push you into hyperlipidemia. I talked about that before from their anabolic effect, building effect, activation of mTOR. Okay, no oil. Oil is a disaster. Oil is just toxic industrial thing, okay? No caffeine, because caffeine mimics a stress response, which increases insulin resistance. Same thing as sleep deprivation or corticosteroid medicines are similar. So avoid dietary fat, eat more plants. With a low-fat plant food, you get all the stuff you want. You get the potassium, you get the magnesium, you get the plant nitrates, precursors for vasodilation of nitric oxide. Okay, eat all low-fat foods. Don't eat these high-fat foods, because right now there's this the popular kids club is the high-fat vegans, the high-fat phonies I call them, telling everybody, oh, you should eat nuts and seeds and avocados and omega-3s and flax and soy. Those are all high-fat foods. If you're eating all that stuff, your fat's going to end up getting pretty high. I would even say for a diabetic, I would minimize even eating things like oatmeal initially. It's only 15% fat. Heck of a lot better than eating meat, of course. But if you want to really get your fat down low and turn things around real fast, you got to make sure you're working with your healthcare provider to watch your medication dosage if you're on medications. But, like lentils are only 3% of calories from fat in comparison with garbanzos. They're about 13% of calories from fat. White rice, sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, only 1% of calories from fat. So that'll make you skinny real fast. Usually a person loses over 30 pounds and they still got a functional pancreas. That'll reverse their diabetes. And that's the key thing, is to say to yourself, well, gee, you can be cured. Why not be cured rather than messing around? Because again, what most diabetics do, in my experience, is they're like, it's under control, it's under control. I'm taking my pills, my numbers are good. They don't understand. They have insulin resistance that's destroying their bodily tissues, and they're going to end up running into irreversible damage. So you want to turn it around, the sooner the better. Good to walk a lot, gets the glucose type 4 transporters from the cytoplasm of your skeletal muscles to go up to the plasma membrane and then take glucose into the cell. So walking or any form of exercise tremendously improves insulin sensitivity. So whatever you like. And don't be doing other stupid stuff. You never want to smoke cigarettes, and I don't think you should drink any alcohol or do vaping or marijuana, any of this stuff. It just makes people sick. Manage your stress, get along with people, all those things that help lower your stress life, so you avoid those forms of insulin resistance. Having a strong sense of purpose, all of that makes you more resilient. The world sort of beats you down, but if you have a strong sense of purpose that you know is good, that you're working on, then you become more resilient to it. Yeah, the world's still going to always beat you down. You're going to run into mean, nasty people, but you'll be better able to handle it. Usually the best thing to do is just avoid them, Like I sometimes talk to young guys and they want to learn, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, they want to learn martial arts and all this stuff. And I'm like, the smart thing to do is just don't go to places where there's trouble. That's the best way to stay out of troubles. Don't go to bars. Don't go to places where there's trouble. Okay. And if a girl wants to go to those places, then break up with her. Stay away from her. She's bad news. It's only going to lead to trouble. I never met anybody in my whole life that had a good relationship with a woman that revolved around going to bars. Sooner or later, there's going to be trouble with that. Okay, religious people like, Harold Koning's book and his research, they're always healthier in general than the non-religious peoples. Okay, so anyways, that's all it takes to reverse type 2 diabetes. So basically, in the real world, all these people, they just take pills. They never get better. Their doctors don't know what they're doing. They don't know nutrition, epidemiology, toxicology. They don't know what causes insulin resistance. They give the patient pills. The patients just progressively deteriorate, crash and burn, get their feet amputated, go blind, end up in kidney failure, have a stroke, then die of a heart attack. And it's all easily curable. They're a bunch of stupid chumps. It's kind of sad, but just so you know. And that's why people say to me, oh, do I feel bad that this book's about $25, $30? They'll save a person's life if they're willing to open the page. Yeah, but of course the book's going to be shadow banned. Hardly anybody's going to know about it. But you know about it for what it's worth. You got a diabetic friend. This can help them. And they don't even have to buy the book. You can just watch my videos, okay, if they got the discipline to do that. Go to the playlist. So you'll see diabetes. There's no reruns there, or at least I try to avoid any reruns on the playlist. And you can watch all these videos for free. The McDougall lecture is real good, where he goes through all the papers on how it's obvious that fat's the main issue. And he'll go through a big stack of papers. I didn't include all that in the book. I footnoted a bunch of them, but I didn't go through all that again because I wanted something new in the book. I wanted it to just be what you need to know. Because, you can give a 2-hour-long talk on all the papers showing fat causes diabetes. I think, summarizing them briefly is enough. Anyways, I hope that's helpful.